Welcome to the High Vibe Soul Podcast, a space where we discuss personal growth, spirituality, motherhood, relationships, and shifting old paradigms so that you can live your most authentic, soul-aligned life. I'm your host, Lyndsey, and I founded the High Vibe Soul Company to empower women and support them in becoming their highest, brightest selves. From my light to yours, I am so grateful you're here. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm sharing an episode all about discovering your purpose outside of motherhood. And this is relevant no matter what your age is. But for me, I did not discover what I'm doing now until I was in my late 30s. So if you feel like your time's running out and you're far behind, I promise you, you're not. Everything happens in perfect divine timing. And now looking back, it makes so much sense how everything unfolded for me, even though it was really frustrating at the time when I was trying to figure out what my purpose was and even praying, just getting frustrated, like, please, God, just show me what I'm meant to be doing. So if you're in that stage, I can fully relate. I've been there. I promise you, you will figure it out. So I'll share my journey, and then I'll also share all the tools and all the things that I did that helped me uncover my purpose along the way. And these are going to help you big time. If you don't know, I am Lyndsey. I'm the founder of the company, The High Vibe Soul. I founded this company just 2 years ago, which it feels like I've been doing this forever. And I really didn't uncover my purpose, like I said, till maybe around 38, and I'm now about to be 42. I am currently a guided meditation creator. That's how the company started. And I'm also an energy healer, and I am a coach and a mentor and a podcast host. It's crazy how everything's unfolded just perfectly and how everything feels so aligned in what I'm doing. And I'm so lit up. Like, I'm so excited to wake up every morning and just start creating or start working with my clients. And so, again, I promise if you're feeling frustrated or stuck right now, you're going to get there too. I will just kind of share my path here. My senior year of college, I still didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I wanted to go into something that was creative, but also business related. Advertising felt really good, but I did an internship in that, and I really didn't like it. And so I was very confused on what I was meant to do. I worked retail and I loved working retail, but I didn't want to work necessarily in a store. Somehow it was brought to my attention that there are jobs called fashion merchandising, fashion buying, where people figure out what clothes go in the store. They pick the styles, the colors, the quantity. So it kind of merges the analytical with the creative, and that really, really appealed me. So senior year, I decided to start minoring in fashion. 8 months after I graduated, it took me a while, I did find a job in fashion merchandising, and I worked for Limited 2, which is now known as Tween Brands. And then from there, I moved to LA and I worked for BCBG, which sounds a lot more glamorous than it was. It was in the middle of a very scary area full of pig slaughterhouses. So, and then I worked in sales. I worked in fashion for the wholesalers. I was completely burnt out by about 25, 26. You get paid very little when you're starting out in fashion, and the hours are just insane. And the expectations, there was at the time a lot of ego, and it was very Devil Wears Prada. And so I just couldn't do it anymore. And I decided I love talking to people. I'd like to make more money. I am barely surviving in LA on this paycheck. So what can I do? And I had some family that worked in medical sales, and I thought that looks really appealing. They have way better balance. They get, car paid for, they get all these benefits, great pay, and they're just going in and out talking to doctors and nurses and staff all day. Like, that sounds kind of great. I interviewed for a long time because I didn't have much sales experience. And eventually somebody gave me a shot. And I was in the sales arena for 7 years. So that's kind of how my path unfolded. I was never in love with any of my jobs. I always liked bits and pieces of them. Like working in fashion, I love the creativity. but I really, really disliked being at a desk all day, working in Excel with sales. I loved being out and about chatting with people, but I really, really didn't like, honestly, the selling part. It was really uncomfortable. Working with doctors, there's a lot of different personalities, there was a lot of ego. At the time, it was before the Me Too movement, a lot of sexual harassment. We had certain offices where it was just like, well, this doctor's a creep and we know that, and let's go in together and let's just get it out of the way. It's crazy to think about now. I hope that's changed. One thing that was always a constant for me throughout all of this is I knew in my heart I was meant to be a mother. I couldn't wait to become a mom. I knew I wasn't supposed to be a mom in my 20s. I was not in the right place mentally, emotionally, any of it. I was a big travel girl. I was a party girl, which you would never guess now. It's a whole different version of me. But around my late 20s, I was starting to feel the itch big time. My kids, my little spirit babies were starting to, hello, mom. Okay, let's wake up. Let's grow up a little bit. We want to come in. And I was feeling it big time by the time I was 28, 29. And so I would talk about it with a lot of people. And I remember speaking to this receptionist at one of the offices I called on and just saying, oh, I cannot wait to be a mom one day. And she said, I really want to be a grandmother. And I'm so upset because my daughter, my only daughter, does not want to have children. And I said, what? Why does she not want to have children? And she said, my daughter said that the world is so dark. She doesn't want to bring a child into a place like this. And I thought about it and I said, yeah, okay, I can see that perspective. But actually, that's exactly why I do want to have children, because I want to bring good humans into this world who will then change the world for generations to come. Like that's how we change the planet, is by these children that we bring in. Obviously, we do our part as well, but I really feel like that's part of my purpose. So it's funny, at a younger age I already knew that, and I feel that so deeply with my path in motherhood. I'm meant to teach my kids how to do things a different way, how to hold their light and their frequency, no matter who they're around, how to rise above the darkness and the negativity. And there's so many like spiritual and energy practices that I'm teaching them at a young age so that they won't have to go through all these ups and downs and roller coasters, hopefully, that I went through. They won't have to go through a crazy party phase and then finding themselves the way I did. I really feel like these kids are going to step into their purpose a lot earlier. And I just knew I was always meant to be a mom. And so I even told my husband when we had just first started dating, he used to call me Miss Independent. I had said, I know I'm meant to be a mom and I know it's going to be in the next few years. And if I don't have a partner, I'm just going to do it on my own. Which now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, how naive I was. But I just was so set on it. And I felt my kids already in my field so strongly. So I went into motherhood thinking this is my purpose. None of these jobs have felt correct. And I think it's because I'm actually just supposed to really lean into motherhood and be a stay at home mom, maybe until they're like 10 years old. Then we'll go from there. And so that's what my husband and I agreed upon. Now, about a year into motherhood with Hudson, I was loving it, but also I was just like, this is not it. I want to say this in a way that if you're a stay-at-home mom, I don't want you to be offended in any way, because I was a stay-at-home mom with him for the first few years. And so I've been there, and it is truly the hardest job on the planet, truly. But I just felt like I was swallowed up by motherhood. I felt like being a stay-at-home mom became my whole identity, and I just really lost myself. I had no idea what my passions were outside of motherhood. I just felt really confused. I was really disappointed because I thought that was it for me. I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and when it came down to it, within a year I realized, no, this is not what I'm meant to be doing. I'm meant to have both. And so I started researching and trying to figure out, okay, what can I do where I can do it while my kids are at school and still be really present with them in the afternoon? I mean, this like unicorn job that so many of us want, right? but it still wasn't time for me to step into what I was meant to do. But the clues were there. I was feeling really pulled and really drawn toward going back to school and becoming a therapist, which now I'm a coach and mentor. I think I could have done that and it actually would have served me really well, but we would have also spent a ton of money on school and I didn't actually need to go that route because what I really needed was to gain more experience, more life experience and more motherhood experience because that's where I really help my clients. And then also I needed to open and develop my intuition because it's a huge part of what I do. And I also need to learn energy healing. So I'll kind of share how that all unfolded for me, and maybe there's some clues and tips for you here. When my second was born in 2020, had already been thinking, okay, I'm either going to go back to school for therapy or I'll go the doula route, the postpartum doula route, because I had really, really bad postpartum anxiety and depression with Hudson. And then with Kenzie, I had none of it. And I felt so amazing. So it was like this really stark contrast of how postpartum can feel for you. All I wanted was just to help women in that period. So I decided, you know what? I'm actually going to train to become a postpartum doula and I'll start my own business and then I can make my own hours as well. So I did that and I started my own business. And then I got pregnant pretty quickly with Coco. And after I had her, I was just like, no, this actually isn't it. It felt like I was supposed to do something with mothers, but broader and bigger. And I just really expanded spiritually after having Coco. I had horrible PPA and PPD again after an unplanned C-section. It just launched me into a really dark space. And I felt it coming. I knew what was going on, but I also knew my soul was calling me to rise. And so this time I decided I'm going to commit to meditation every single day for 30 to 60 minutes. I am going to quit drinking altogether. I'm going to learn energy healing as a way to understand my intuition, my sensitivities, and also know how to protect myself. There are all these different things that I was being guided to do differently from when Hudson was born 4 years earlier. And so I really leaned into these spiritual practices and I just felt amazing after about 8 months. I was like, I have never felt more like myself. I've never felt better. From there, I just felt really called to dive into dive back into what am I meant to be doing and what is my purpose. I started meeting people that were very much meant to be put in my path. I had a spiritual mentor. More and more doors just kept opening. I kept being connected to new people. And I had my astrology reading done. I had my human design reading done, which was absolutely life changing. I had a numerology reading, all these different things. So, all of these charts that you can look at will tell you things about what your purpose is here, what you are meant to be doing next, where you've come from, where you're going, your personality. Human design, I would say, was the most impactful for me because I am a manifester, and manifestors are quite literally meant to use their voice. That's a huge part of our purpose. And we're also not meant to do anything like anyone else. We're really meant to live a bit of a more unique life and we're meant to lead and guide. When I understood that about my energy, it just completely changed my whole perspective. It gave me permission to be who I am and really lean into my authentic self in a lot of ways. Know that your purpose is, it can be one big thing. It might be like 10 different things, or it might be two big things. But I feel like my purpose personally is always changing and evolving with me. As I was kind of following all these little breadcrumbs, whatever looked exciting and interesting, I would take a class on or read a book on. One of the classes that I took during that time period was a class that was all about connecting with your soul. And it was a 6 week class, and every week we met and we did these exercises and meditations and had this discussion about how to connect to our soul. That class changed my life because I really felt like for the first time I understood what was my soul voice versus my mind chatter, my ego voice, my personality voice. And I was able to finally separate the two. My intuition became way more powerful because differentiating the two takes some practice. In that class, we did a meditation where it was asking your soul, what is my purpose, or what are my purposes? And one of the things I heard was sound healing. And I was thinking, oh, okay, so I'm meant to get trained with like sound bowls and do sound baths, which I love going to, but that didn't feel quite right. So I kind of sat with it for a while until the next week. And then the next week, one of the things that this beautiful spiritual mentor, her name is Bryn DePel, if you're curious, shared in the class was the Ho'oponopono forgiveness prayer. And I was so moved by this. I had tears pouring down my face. It was just so beautiful. It's the most simple prayer. It's, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you can say the prayer to yourself. You can say it to another person. You can say it to your body. I said it to my body. I was bawling because I had just been so hard on my body for so many years of my life. You can say it to the planet. You can use it however you'd like, but it's just a beautiful prayer. And I remember sitting on the couch with my husband at like 9 o'clock, and I just looked at him that night and I was like, I think I'm gonna go record something on my computer downstairs. And he was like, okay. And I had a little microphone and I plugged it in and I just started saying the prayer. These beautiful words from my soul just kind of poured through. And I channeled this 4-minute meditation. It's the first meditation I ever created. It's on my website if you're curious. Actually, I'll link it here. I was so lit up afterwards. I was like, I think I can create more guided meditations. And I had had the nudge 6 months earlier because I wasn't using guided meditations at that point because I felt like I was never finding what I wanted. And I remember thinking, I should just make my own. And then I'm like, no, how would I even do that? I don't know. And I kind of talked myself out of it. After that, I started creating guided meditations. It's one of the most effortless things I've ever done. I mean, the editing is not my favorite part, but I love saying it. I love the words that come through, the way they come through, the I pray over out of every meditation and I just pray for like everyone who hears every meditation to heal and for their highest and best. And I call in all the angels to encircle me when I'm creating these meditations. And I ask my highest self to speak through me. And they're really just super high frequency meditations. I remember after recording those in the beginning, I couldn't sleep at night. It was like my whole body was vibrating. Just follow these little nudges, follow these things that kind of light you up, these creative urges. You never know where they're going to take you. And now I've got, I don't even know how many meditations on my site. I've got over 40,000 downloads and probably hundreds of reviews that have been sent to me. It's incredible. I would never, ever guess this in a million years. And that obviously led me to energy healing sessions. I had done a lot of energy healing modality training over the course of a few years. And eventually I found a modality that I just fell in love with that's angelic healing. So I started doing those sessions. And it wasn't something I ever intended to do, but it was another piece of me following the breadcrumbs, doing something that I actually just wanted to do for myself and learn for myself. But then people started asking me, and I was like, all right, let's try it. Let's see how a session goes. And the reviews were just incredible. And then they started referring people to me, and it became a whole thing in itself. And then from there, I give a lot of people coaching and information. A lot of intuitive information comes through in those sessions. And I started coaching and mentoring people. And some of it would be from me, and some of it would be from the angels or from my higher self. And it all just kind of blended together. And I had people saying, do you ever do just coaching and mentoring? That's how that was born. And so, yeah, it's just funny how this all just kind of flows together. And then using my voice, this podcast has been huge for me, sharing my voice and for you to get to know me. It's been so much fun and so fulfilling to receive the messages from some of my listeners just saying, Thank you so much for sharing that. That helped me so much with my kids or with myself. That's all I want to do. I remember being younger and being like, I know I'm supposed to help people, but how am I supposed to help people? I just want to help people. I just remember saying that phrase over and over and praying, God, show me how to help people. And so that I live for those kind of messages. So going back to uncovering your gifts, I want you to think back to your childhood. My voice is one of my gifts. I actually have had intuitives tell me your voice and the way that you say things, specifically in my meditations, my voice cuts through darkness and it actually brings people up. It like pulls their frequency up, and the energy that comes through me, that's one of my gifts. My voice is healing. But these clues are in your childhood. What were you obsessed with as a kid? I was obsessed with taking out a microphone and pretending like I was a news reporter or a meteorologist. And a lot of times I would ask my mom to film me on her giant 20-pound camcorder. And my mom, truly to this day, she would tell you, she thought I was going to be a meteorologist. She's like, you were so good when you were 10 years old and you were talking about the weather. She really, really wanted to see me on the local news so badly. But I loved pretending like I was on camera, which is hilarious because obviously podcasting didn't exist at that time. I loved using my voice. I was always creating little games with the microphone and like playing around with my voice. I loved singing. Singing was really big for me. So think about like what games did you pretend to play with? What little worlds did you create when you were a kid? The clues are in your childhood. What were you obsessed with? Also, think potentially about what wounds do you have from childhood? Because sometimes your gifts are actually tied to this too. So for me, as a manifestor child, my wounds were very much tied to my voice. I was often told I was too much, I was too talkative, I asked too many questions, I was too curious. I never wanted to follow what my parents told me to do because I just wanted to understand the why behind what they were asking. I also was a kind of like a nerdy, smart little kid. I very much remember being in third grade, maybe, and raising my hand to answer questions a few too many times. And somebody called me a dork or a nerd or something or told me to be quiet. And that really silenced my voice. That was really pivotal for me. Later on, I decided my voice was annoying. I remember hearing myself on recording machines or like you would do a school project and I think we still yeah, probably still had the cassette tapes even in college, but I remember I had this linguistics class where I had to record my little 2-year-old nephew and like analyze it and I had to ask questions and I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice. And I think a lot of that probably stemmed back from childhood, but it's funny because sometimes these wounds are actually tied to our gifts. I now can listen to my voice. I listen to my guided meditations pretty much every single day, but it has taken me a lot of time to get there. Also think back to even your 20s. So like I kept saying in my 20s, I just want to help people. I just want to help people. I want to do something creative, but I also want to help people. And I also want to talk to people. What is the career path for that? And obviously what I'm doing now, I wouldn't have even known it existed. I don't know that even guided meditation recordings were really a thing then. I mean, like 15 years ago, probably not. So it's like a lot of these things didn't even exist, but I knew what I liked and I knew I wanted to combine them somehow. I just had to wait for this, for the timing and for everything to unfold. Another childhood wound that I had is being so sensitive. The word empath was not around in the 1990s that I know of, at least not where I grew up. I was so sensitive to energy and I was so sensitive to other people's emotions and I took on so much that wasn't mine that eventually it led me to really put up a guard and numb myself because it was just too much. I'd be crying and crying in my room or listening to like depressing music and journaling all emo. I didn't realize that my sensitivity is one of my gifts. It's a huge part of my gifts. My mom and my aunt would also always say, "You have such healing hands," because they would ask us when we were little, do little hair massages and neck massages. We would pretend to do spa days on them. And my mom and my aunt would always say, "Your hands are so healing." Energetically, I'm very sensitive. My hands actually are very healing. It's one of my gifts. I'm such a natural energy healer, it's like not even funny. But that was something that was a huge wound for me as a child. So think about some of these potential wounds for you from childhood, teenage, even your 20s, and think about how maybe some of those things are actually your gifts and something that's meant to be incorporated in your purpose. It's almost laughable looking back at how things unfolded because I was so clearly meant to become a coach, a mentor, a guide for people because I'm highly intuitive, I'm highly empathic. I pick up on really subtle cues of what's not being said, what's beneath the surface. I'm a really good listener. I just intuitively know how to respond. I like to ask questions. I love just learning about people. And a lot of times I just know things about people without them telling me. It just comes to me really naturally. You have these natural gifts that are so natural that you don't even realize they're gifts because it's just who you are. And you might have people compliment you on them, so take note of that as well. My husband used to say to me, "You will meet a coworker of mine that I've known for 5 years, and you will learn more about them in 5 minutes than I've known in 5 years." And I'm like, yeah, I just love learning about people. But also, that's one of my gifts is that people just open up to me. And then I also am picking up on all the subtle things beneath the surface and know how to ask the right questions, all of that. So take note of that. I really recommend having some people that you're close with. It could be a parent, but definitely like a friend that you really trust, maybe a coworker. Ask them to reflect to you. What do you think my natural gifts are? Or what do you think I'm naturally really good at? What are some things you think about when you think of me? What's my personality type? What are my strengths? I can always tell what my friends and also what my clients would be good at. It's really easy to see other people's natural gifts and talents, maybe not always as easy to see our own. So have someone reflect it back to you. I know I mentioned earlier I had an astrology reading, human design. I took personality tests. I had many intuitive readings. And I want to recommend a few different people to you if that's something you're looking for. So, for astrology, if you're looking to uncover your gifts, look up Natalie Holbrook. She's absolutely incredible. And she has a ton of amazing free information as well on her Instagram. But her readings are phenomenal. I highly, highly recommend, especially in terms of your career and your purpose. She is my number one go-to for career purpose astrology readings. For human design, I really love Hannah Sawicki. Her Instagram is Birthing My Being. She's fantastic. Her energy is just so soothing, and she gives you a really digestible understanding of human design, which can be kind of complicated. If you're looking for like an intuitive psychic reading, Nikki Novo's readings are incredible. Heather Fox, her company is called She Is Fox on Instagram. Her Akashic Records readings are amazing. And then my other Akashic person I love is Guided by Gabrielle. She's incredible as well. She's on Instagram, but not really. Her business is all referrals and she's always booked out. She's absolutely amazing. So I really recommend them. They can really help you wherever you're at and look at maybe what your next steps are or like the overarching purpose, what you're meant to lean into. If you're feeling like I just cannot figure this out on my own, have an intuitive reading. And then I really like the personality test, 16 personalities. That really didn't show me what I was meant to be doing, but it just kind of reconfirmed everything for me, like my gifts and my talents. Along with this, I want you to make this space to figure this out. You can't figure it out when you're going, 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 going. You need to make the space for me time. You need to make the space for meditation, connection with your soul, nature walks. If you have trouble meditating, I always recommend movement to keep your left brain busy. So take a nature walk and set the intention to connect with your soul and just see what might come through about your purpose or your next steps. You can do the future self meditation. I'll link it here in the show notes. My future self meditation is really, really helpful for this. And just see like what is the first thing that pops into your mind. And I'll do a whole episode on intuition because that's a whole nother topic in itself. But with intuition, you really need the ego personality mind to kind of take a back seat, take a rest. Sometimes I will even envision my personality going to take a little nap and my soul coming in to speak through me. That can be really helpful in meditation. But with intuition, it's what's the first thing that pops in your mind, even if it doesn't make sense. Because a lot of times it won't. Like I mentioned that story earlier where I took the higher self class and sound healing was part of my purpose. And I was thinking it was literal, but it wasn't. It's all about using my voice. Journaling is huge for uncovering your purpose. Ask yourself, what are my favorite things to do that bring me joy? What are my gifts? What are my strengths? What do people compliment me on all the time that maybe I'm not even realizing is a gift or a strength? And what brings me fulfillment? And then look at your hobbies. And maybe you're like, I don't have any hobbies. I'm a mom. I get it. But what's something you're passionate about? Is there a certain topic or something you're feeling drawn to where you want to read a book or take an online course or a workshop? What are you feeling drawn to? What are you passionate about? And if you don't know, just live your life and take note of what is coming into your sphere. Set the intention. I'm big on intention setting every morning. You want to set the intention for how you want to feel that day, but you can also set the intention that you want to uncover your purpose and you want more information that can help you uncover that or your next steps, and then kind of see what's coming into your sphere. I want to share a story about hobbies. I have a client and she's become a dear friend of mine, an incredible photographer. Her business is absolutely thriving. She now has people underneath her. She has her own studio. She's doing work for huge companies. She's now a brand photographer, but her whole business started just because she loved taking pictures of her little newborn. And then she became a family photographer. And then from there, it just kind of continued on. She would have never guessed in a million years that she would have her own photography studio one day. And know that the first thing that you think might be your purpose or your thing, it might be or it might not be. Going back to my story, I thought, okay, guided meditations. I'm just supposed to do guided meditations. That's it. And then I felt this little pull like, no, that's not quite it. There's more, there's more. And I kind of fought it at first because at the time my company was called The Meditation Mama. I'm like, no, I'm just supposed to do this. But I realized that my soul was really calling me to do more and think bigger and broader and expand my perspective and what I'm capable of and what would bring me fulfillment. Because what brings me fulfillment is helping people. That's a broad, expansive perspective. Could be a lot of things. And sometimes my purpose is just being out and about and having a conversation with a cashier that day who's having a down day and lifting them up, or just sharing my energy with the other moms at the preschool. Sometimes your purpose is really just about being you that day or that week or this time period until you step into your next iteration. Because I could not have stepped into my business and what I'm doing now 8 years ago when my son was born. There was just so much I had to learn. There was so much I had to go through. There was so much I had to embody first. I had to shed so much conditioning and programming and beliefs. And I really had to step up into my highest frequency, my highest energy, and become the person I am now. And I was not that person 4 years ago. I was not that person 8 years ago. I had to grow and shift and change before I could become who I am now. And I'm sure in another 5 years, I'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, I've changed and grown so much. But timing plays a huge part in this. And I don't want you to lean on that as a crutch, like, oh, it's not the right time, so I'm just not going to do anything. No, follow what lights you up. Follow what you're interested in. What's that little inkling? What are you curious about? And just let it take you from there. So it's this dance of receiving and doing. If you are needing some support in terms of finding your purpose, this is something that I work on a lot with my clients. I actually go into their human design, numerology, astrology, and then I also use my intuitive skills and my coaching mentorship skills to help you uncover your purpose and your next steps and where you're heading. So if that's something you're interested in, you can book a session with me. I will link that below, and I can't wait to hear what this episode sparked for you. So send me a message, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the High Vibe Soul podcast. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with a loved one. Sign up for my newsletter and receive 2 free high vibe meditations straight to your inbox. And for more ways to work with me, click the links in the show notes. I would love to hear from you, so send me a message on my Instagram at the.highvibe.soul, and I'll see you next time.